Hi everyone, I'm Shelly and you're watching There's No Place Like Home. I'm back with another question the narrative video, and today's topic is there were giants on the earth in those days and also after that. I actually just got done recording another video about 10 minutes ago, and it ended up being over 30 minutes long, and yet somehow I still forgot to include something in it. And so that is what I am sharing with you now. So by the time that you're watching this, if you watch it the day that it's published, you may have seen the other video come out the day before it. So does that make sense to you? Regardless, this one is going to come out the day after the one that it was originally supposed to be in. I had the verse already, and I think I even pulled it up in the video at one point and then completely forgot to include it. In that video, though, I was talking about the possibility of the flood being local. And before you come at me here in the comments with whatever you're going to say, I encourage you to first watch that video because I shared many, many scriptures and I shared the Hebrew translations, and I believe that it is a very convincing thought that the flood may have been local. And it's not something that I had ever really given too much thought to before. I mentioned it here and there, but never took the time to actually look into it. And I honestly, it didn't matter to me enough. But I have now been reading a book called Beyond Creation Science. And I've been talking about that book a lot lately because I get excited when I'm reading a new book and that it clicks with me. But this is actually coming from that. And at the end of that video, I was talking about implications of a local flood. And for me, it would make a lot of sense regarding this verse. When man began to multiply on the face of the land, and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of men were attractive, and they took as their wives any they chose. Then the Lord said, My spirit shall not abide in man forever, for he is flesh. His days shall be 120 years. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God came in to the daughters of man, and they bore children to them. These were the mighty men who were of old, the men of renown. Now, the Nephilim is also sometimes translated as giants, and that has been an issue for many. If the flood wiped out everything on the face of the entire earth, that would include the giants or the Nephilim. So, how is it that in Genesis 6, verse 4, it says that they were also on the earth after that? And this is something that I had thought about, well, for quite a while. And I actually made a couple videos on how the giants could have survived the flood, never really stopping to give much thought to the idea that if it were a local flood, that would certainly make a lot of sense. And there are a lot of different theories on how, besides a local flood, on how the Nephilim may have survived. There is the theory that many of possibly, not many, but possibly Shem, Ham, and Japheth's wives may have had some Nephilim DNA, and that it may have been passed on to their offspring, and so that they then would also have become giants. Their offspring, I mean, not their wives. There is also a story, I believe that it's actually a Jewish story, that King Og of Bashan, who is mentioned later on after the flood, who was a giant, that he kind of hitched a ride on the ark, and that is how the Nephilim DNA may have been passed on and how there may have been giants after the flood. And the last other idea that I'm going to share with you is just that some people believe that there may have been a second incursion of the Watchers who may have come down again and may have mated with the human women again and created a new batch of Nephilim. And some people even believe that this was an issue in Sodom and Gomorrah. So it's something that just happened all over again. So the thing is, though, is that if you are looking at counter arguments to all of these, one of the counter arguments to the idea of a second incursion is in the book of Enoch. It is stated that the punishment was so terrible for these watchers that the other angels looked on in complete fear. So people like Rob Skiba, for example, would have said that the punishment was so great, there's no way that any other watchers would have gone down and done the same thing that the original ones did. Then, if you look at the story of Og of Bashan hitching a ride on the ark, a lot of people would say, well, are you going to say that God wanted to just save those 8 people, that he wouldn't have known that Og of Bashan was on there? So that is an argument that other people have said. And, it does make sense. And another argument is that, well, if the wives of Shem, Ham, and Japheth had tainted DNA, would God have even allowed them? Because it says that, Noah was pure in his generations. And so many people will say that means that he was pure in that he had no Nephilim DNA. And if that indeed was the reason that they were talking about, why would they allow women with Nephilim DNA on board the ark? So, and now I can also say, though, that it is also possible that pure in his generations might just mean that he was a righteous man in his generations coming from the line of Adam. But honestly, I do have to say that the theory that makes the most sense, and especially after what I have been looking into for the past couple of days, thanks to this book, I it certainly makes the most sense that this was a local flood. Now I may change my mind at some point, but at this point in time, I am starting to believe that it was likely a local flood. And the reason that there were still giants on the earth after those days is because the flood was a covenantal judgment on the line of Adam, and it did not affect the other groups of people who, yes, would have been living during that time. And that's how we have, accounts from other nations, even about the flood, or how we have historical artifacts that are said to be older than the antediluvian times from these other nations. If you think about that, it is very possible that if there were other nations who were not destroyed by the flood, if it was local covenantal judgment, then yes, the Nephilim or the giants, they may also have survived as well. That's my thought. Anyway, that's all that I have for you today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed and would like to hear more of what I have to say, I would love if you would do that. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave them down below. And if you like my work and would like to become a channel member, I will leave a link in the description box for that as well. Or you can just click on it right on my channel page. And I hope you have a great day.